Okay, can everybody see that? David, is that look visible to you? Well, hopefully, yes. Hearing no feedback, but
you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, great. Great. So we're going to have a panel discussion today. Excuse me. I'm going to pose a series of questions. Sorry, the first of which is this. And we're going to have a little discussion. And at about 35 minutes after the hour, we'll hope to have some have about 10 minutes worth of questions if people have questions, but we want to reserve like the last 5 minutes of the talk for wrapping up and sort of discussing next steps to take. So that's the scheme. And David, would love your help keeping us on track with that. We're going to try to have about 15 minutes for this initial discussion and then about 5 minutes for each discussion, each little question topic after this. So
Timer set.
Thank you. So the first point is to discuss the sort of relationship and positioning of kind of class editing, the classic pages and Volto pages. So the internal representation of like TinyMCE pages, straight up pages, Mosaic pages and Volto pages is different, not surprising, but not something I had realized or thought about or very much before a few months ago. So the question is this a problem? Is there a solution? Would one representation and one tool be possible? If we need 3 page editing solutions, how do we position them? This gets into sort of what is Plone question. So, and really, I'm not going to be very able to like call on people who raise their hands because I can't see you very well, but take it away, folks, and just dive in. So unmute everybody and turn on your videos. Well, maybe to get things started, Paul could say a few words about sort of Paul is here to sort of represent the user experience side of the equation as opposed to the developer side of the equation. We'll be talking about some very specific use cases later, but maybe Paul wants to say a couple things about just how this plays in terms of marketing and positioning Plone and all that.
Yes, for me, it does represent kind of a problem because it is a question of when do you switch over your site? Can you switch over your site? Is there a pathway to have your site that that is based on Plone 5 or on Plone 5 plus Mosaic? Turn over to Volto without redoing all our 700 plus Mosaic pages. That would be the 3rd time we would have to do that from various previous incarnations of Composite Pages. And also there, yes, so it presents a problem in the sense of where do we stand? Do we have to what are upgrade paths? What can we do? Can they be combined in one site so that we can practice a little bit already with Volto, or do we have to give up that idea? So for me, it is a problem and it is a question.
Don't everyone speak at once.
Oh, I was muted. I guess I could ask at least part of his questions, or like there are many questions, right? So we have to go step by step here. But I think the question that I might be able to answer best is the migration story, right? Because we're using Volto since like 3 years, and we migrated quite a few large projects from classic Plone or even other systems to Volto, right? Like a 10K person intranet. We just migrated that, and one of the website of one of the highest level government agencies in Germany. So they were quite large sites. And one of those sites actually had a collective cover, right? It had collective cover, and the other system was a completely different system, also with page composition capabilities. The problem in general with all page composition tools, no matter if it's an external system or if it's like Cover, Mosaic, whatever, or even Volto, right, is that they're pretty specific. They solve pretty specific use cases, and they also come from different eras, right? So if you take Volto, it solves the layout problem in a completely different way than Cover did, for instance, right? Or Mosaic, they have this idea of those tiles, right? That you can arbitrarily arrange items, right? And when we started Volto, we realized that this is not the way modern websites look like. And we realized that modern websites are more block-based, right? So because of mobile design and restrictions, you have those blocks, right? And Gutenberg takes this approach as well, right? So when you migrate from Cover or Mosaic to something like Gutenberg or Volto, right? You're migrating from one world to another, right? And you have like quite complex implementations actually, right? And they differ quite a bit. But we had the problem of like having this 10K user, a few hundred thousands or million document internet problem, right? We had to migrate that from one system to another. And then you have far more than the 700 Mosaic pages, right? So we tried really hard to like solve that problem because it's hard to solve manually, right? And we put a lot of effort into that. But the problem is that even if you say you succeed, right? You are able to migrate all the data from system A, whatever that is, if it's Mosaic or whatever, to Volto, and you're able to do so, what you will end up with is basically a page that will look ugly, no matter what. I think that's a problem that computers can't really solve, right? So the best thing that you can accomplish is you put a lot of effort into it because of the technical complexity of the system. And what you end up with is something that you will have to go over anyways. That can be a helper, right? For sure, it might be better to start with something that does not look right than with something like completely new. But our experience from our project is that you want to touch those things because there's a reason why you're moving from the old system to the new system. And most likely it's because the old system does not allow you to do what you want to do. And then your pages look ugly and they look old, right? So you want to go over them anyways. And for 100% of our projects, we decided at the end that we are going to redo at least the important overview pages, right? And we wrote a migration algorithm that's able to migrate the entire thing. And then you can basically cherry pick individual elements and the client can create them, right? So you can have a combination of automated migration plus the client starting to overwrite certain pages, right? And then you also have the problem that you're linking between those, right? So when you have an overview page, 90% of your content is a teaser. And then you have to link, right? So that's an incredibly hard problem that we're talking about here on different levels.
Maybe we should let somebody else jump in here. And just to say something I should have said at the beginning, let's try to keep this talk kind of at the conceptual level and not get too into the technical weeds. So yeah, does anybody else want to just add and maybe a brief comment? Sure, Philip, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to move at least the parts away that we know that we have, so that there is no uncertainty about those. So when it comes from migrations from whichever Plone version to Plone 6, we have the migration of all schema-based default content. We have the migration of itemish to folderish content. Still has to be merged, but the code exists in the my old folderish clip branch, but it's not a technical issue. This will be done. We will have a migration of the site root from old site root to dexterity site root. We have a migration from Python 2 to Python 3, from archetypes to dexterity. Nothing there is new. So all the content that is in a schema will definitely be migrated. And what we could do, for example, for pages that don't have a lot of mosaic, because this is the only place where I see a real challenge. And I tend to agree with Timo that it's a non-issue, because you will probably have to touch these anyway. But disregarding mosaic, everything else can be safely migrated. And the problem that documents in Plone 6 will be automatically enabled Pastanaga editor could be fixed by giving them a marker to not use that and just display the schema-based document. So, and starting from there, moving on to tiles, or moving the whole thing in one big block. There's various solutions. So all the normal content, unless you have Mosaic or I don't know, any other composite page creator, is easily not easily, probably that is overselling it, but is migratable, and you will not lose any of that. What you will lose is probably portlets, unless they will be implemented. But everything else is solved on a technical level, and most of that is already in existence.
Excuse me, let me just jump in here. We've been mostly talking so far about how we can migrate content to Volto, which is great. I'm really glad you guys are working on that. But really the question we're posing in this slide is, do we need all three? And I hear you saying, I think, yes. I mean, I know that Volto is the future, but we have quite a few classic sites out there that are not going to be moving to Volto anytime soon. So there's this rather long transition period. And we need a way to position all these different ways of editing pages. Does anyone have comments on that?
I think in the roadmap we committed. In the roadmap, I think we committed ourselves to support what we call Plone Classic for quite some time. There's no plans yet to cut it off in any way, right? So it will continue to be there. We will not force people with Plone 6 to jump on Volto, right? And if you have a large existing site and you're not willing to maybe redesign it or anything, there's no reason that you should jump to Volto or that you have to, right? Usually it's a good, like the same was true from Plone 4 to Plone 5 when we redid like the front end, right? That's pretty similar to now the jump from Plone 5 to Plone 6. That if you do a redesign with your client and you can add value to your client, right? Then that would be the point where you should consider moving to Volto. But if you have an existing site and it's large, there's no reason for you that you have to jump on it right now, right? So you can wait a bit until all this migration, the entire migration story is ready. And maybe people came up with a migration from Mosaic to Volto, right? That's possible. So I don't think.
Right. So you're emphasizing that yes, we need these different representations for now, and there will be this overlap period. I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts? So, as a sort of as providers who are not necessarily all, on the same, at the same stage, how do we talk about Plone in these times when there are these very different ways of doing things in Plone?
Yeah, I think that the three will be needed, and there's no need to unify them or whatever. We only have these tools, this set of tooling that we should provide ourselves with, and then if we make a migration or something, then we could easily, as Philip said, the classic schema to Volto will go right away, because you don't have to do anything. Even for rich text fields, it will work right away. The only thing, for pages, we need some kind of fallback if the blocks are not there, but which is could be easy to do also. And then, yeah, someone came up with a way for migrate Mosaic data to Volto-pages. But as Timo said, it's nothing that is straightforward, right? Because you need to have in both sides the same as many tiles or type of tiles that you have in Mosaic. You have to or re-implement them or remap them to existing blocks in Volto, right? And then the outcome won't be the same anyways, right? So I can imagine a number of ways to overcome that, like, I don't know, dump Mosaic pages into HTML, then load it back in Volto blocks as they were HTML, right? And then, I don't know, a way to split them up if you need it and convert them into proper Volto blocks. I don't know. I mean, implementations apart, I think that it's definitely doable, and there's no need to unify them or anything. And yeah, we'll have to live with the 3 implementations, right, at some point.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question. I'm hoping to rope Eric in to say a few words at some point. So here's a question. If you have a big classic site, like, for example, a site that has highly structured content types, not a lot of pages where the sort of block editing thing is that useful, because the pages are already heavily structured by the content types themselves. But you want to kind of take advantage of all that data and maybe have a nice React little app sort of thing as part of a sub-site. How would you do that?
I think it's definitely doable, although we haven't tried it yet, I'll say. But it's a matter of where you point your Volto site, right? And you tell Volto where your API is, and then if you do, you made available that piece of site in a virtual host, and then make Volto feel that that's the root. I think it will work. I mean,
right, but the pages in Volto, what would they look like to an editor who went into them from Classic, and vice versa?
Exactly. Then you will have to go the same dance that we said before, right? So if you want all Classic, then you will have all Classic with no Volto blocks. And if you want to go all in with Volto blocks, then you'll have to do something to transform what you had into Volto, or start from scratch. Maybe this use case, you could start from scratch with Volto in a subsite or in a section of your site, right? And then have nice Volto pages in a newly created section. I don't know, could imagine that.
Just wondering about the user experience for that, for editors. I mean, has anybody thought about how to?
I don't think it's a good idea to actually offer that. It is, I don't see any upside there. If you have old content that is unmigratable, just split them into 2 different applications with shared authentication maybe. But there are so many technical issues if you try to link from one content to the other using the relation widget, for example, and where do you end up then? And the user expects the same experience. If they click on a link, the design would look different, the UI and the editing would look different. I think this is a non-issue. I would have a very hard time coming up with an actual use case where I would want to do that. And I think we as professionals are able to convince our clients that it's not a good idea to do that. If they want a Volto site for something specific, they get a Volto site or a Plone 6 site. And if they have legacy content, they get that. And legacy, I mean, Plone 6 is an LTS. Plone Classic is not outdated. It's going to be awesome on Bootstrap 5.
So in other words, you guys are saying, don't do this. It's not supported, basically.
I say that.
Yeah.
I would say that if you don't have a compelling use case that where you can benefit for that, right? Because what Philip said, I mean, why would you want to move to Volto if you don't use any of its powers that it has, and if you don't want to use the page composition tool,
Right.
why would you want to move to Volto in the first place, right?
Can I just ask if Paul has anything to add here? Because I know this was one of his sort of...
Yeah, the one of the use cases is if you have a large site with many departments, where a lot of the content won't change that much anyway, but there is a subsite, for instance, the marketing department or well, name any university that hangs under the entire university, but you go to university/physics, and the physics department wants to have snazzy new Volto things. And they don't link much to the rest of the site anyway.
Right. So anyway,
go with a separate page then. I mean, in general, that's also true, like putting multiple site, right? Why don't you just create another site and like connect them to LDAP, and then you're done, right? Then you have clear separation and no need to like that the two interfere. I mean, that's possible, but why would you want to have that burden?
possible reasons might be if you have these very, very rich content, structured content sites, and you want to take advantage of some of that content in this sort of appy thing that you want to develop.
If you have that, then you want a different view on like the same content maybe, and you can do that. Then you can use all the power of like the REST API and Volto, or even headless like create your React or Vue or whatever application to have this like super nice view on your existing content, right? Then you can use Plone as a headless CMS. Basically, you continue to use your Plone 5 user interface, you add stuff there, and then you show it in a fancy way. But it's
Right.
hard to imagine to show like rich text in a fancy way, to be honest. That's a chicken egg problem, right?
Did you guys just lose my video? You did. I have no idea what happened here. It looks like my Google Slides just crashed, so I'm really sorry. But why don't you continue the discussion while I scramble to get the slides going again. I think we should move on to the next topic, which, because I can't see it right
The
now.
next topic was upgrade, but we already sort of covered
Yeah,
that. So
let's move on to the one after that, and I will start my presentation again. I'll just read it. Cost and benefit of upgrading a big classic site to Plone 6. So this is the situation where the classic site is staying in classic because it's highly structured data or whatever. There is some reason to do that, and Plone 6 is the LTS version, not Plone 5. And we've just had a quite expensive migration of our site to Plone 5. What is the cost of now doing the migration to Plone 6 so that we get on to LTS, and what is the benefit for an organization that's staying on Classic?
Philip, you want to take over that question? I could only answer the discussion that we had when we discussed that in the steering circle or roadmap, but not specifically about the technical stack of Plone Classic.
Yeah, this is not about the technical stuff. This is about, you have a client and you want to tell them that they need to upgrade. What are you giving them in exchange for the cost of that upgrade? So what is coming in Plone 6 that will be valuable to them?
Okay, two cents from me. We're having this discussion every major upgrade of Plone. Why do we need a major version? Why are upgrades expensive? And my answer is always the same, basically. Communicate every upgrade as a relaunch. And if there is no technical hard reason, like, I don't know, for example, still running on Plone Python 2, the relaunch is the reason for the upgrade, and every new feature that you get is the benefit. for the client for that, and the new design and the new site structure and the new editing experience in the newest TinyMCE, because we're going to update that as well, as far as I understood, Hannes at least. And so there is, I can see lots of benefits in having a Plone 6, Plone 5.2 site migrated to Plone 6. But if I talk to my client, say, yeah, there's a new version, that's why you need to upgrade, this is not going to fly. This did never fly. You always have to, it's a sell unless you're a technological addict and you need the newest version every time, like me probably.
I agree with Philip in the sense that like if you have a cost, then you should try to sell your client something that's valuable for them, right? So I fully agree on that this is the right strategy. Though I think I disagree on that this should be the default. I know it has been the default for Plone for quite a while, but I think that this is like really killing us in the long run, right? Because you can't always like tell clients, like you can combine it all the time, right? Sometimes you just can't. And when we make a major release, we should give the client something in exchange, right? I mean, we became a very developer-oriented community, and every developer understands the value from Python to move from Python 2 to Python 3, or like doing upgrades, right? Like that's totally clear. We don't have to discuss that value, and we don't have to discuss the value of the migration from 2 to 3, for instance, right? But for clients, this is something that they don't understand at all, right? This cost. And I think that we desperately need to get back to making major releases that add a real value for clients, that you don't have to like find this relaunch thingy, which is a good thing anyways, but it should still work without that, right? We should make releases that have so much value for clients that they want to jump, right? That they come to us and ask us, hey, we saw those cool new features, right? We really want to upgrade to Plone 6, right? And I think Plone 6 is the first, with Volto, is the first release where we can provide clients a tremendous amount of like new features and new functionality, right? And this is for me just the first step, and we have to go from there. We have to get back to a situation where Plone releases sell themselves, right?
Okay, so it sounds like we have some agreement that Plone releases should offer real value so that people really want to upgrade to them. But we also have it seems like the position is that the big value of Plone 6 is Volto. So for clients that, because of the structure of their sites, really that's not an option to move to Volto. There is not going to be much.
I think there's a bit of a problem with the question here of like, we're saying moving to Plone 6 with Volto is a high cost upgrade, but it's worthwhile because our clients would want it. And also like moving to Plone 6 and using the classic, what's the benefit of that? And the migration from Plone 5.2 to Plone 6, keeping the classic, should be relatively minor. Most of the upgrade costs that comes with moving to Plone 6, Timo, I know, I agree, but but we're going to be discussing that, and we'll try to figure out a way to make that work. But yeah, but the moving to Plone 6 with Volto, there's an obvious benefit, to me at least, in that sales part of things, and I think, yeah, if you want to sell it to your clients as a, here's the cool new stuff you get, that's a Volto upgrade, and if you want to do the lower cost, stick with the LTS version, then that's still available.
Yeah, well, that's great. If it would be a low cost upgrade in that case, it would be great. Okay, let's move on to the final question before we take audience questions. And I want this to be a really, really brief answers from you guys. Constrain yourselves. So remember Alex Leamy's vision for Deco? The question is, are we there yet? Was that fulfilled by Mosaic? collective cover by Volto, or Volto plus the great new stuff we've been seeing that OdaWeb has been doing, or do we still need something else? And please try, I'd like to hear from everybody, and I want you to keep your answers really brief because I want to start taking audience questions here. So I'm going to just go in the order I see you in my Zoom thing. Paul, you first.
Not quite, but slowly getting there.
And by which technology? By Volto, you mean?
For me as a user, it would be Volto complemented with the great stuff that we've seen from EEA. I want that power. I know others think I shouldn't be trusted with that power because I will make horrible sites, but I want that.
Okay, Timo.
When we look at what Volto Core right now, we're not there yet. But when we look at the page composition tools that we have, that OdaWeb has, that Red Turtle has, and that Kit Concept has, we went far beyond the wildest dreams that Alex ever had, I think, and we updated it. And it's just a matter of getting together and have a common vision on that, and bring together the different implementations, and then we're there.
Okay, Eric, you next.
I think what we've seen out of Volto this week, the entire Volto stack is closest to what Leamy envisioned. I will point out that Leamy also hated variables in CSS, so we can't go by everything that he promoted.
Okay, Victor.
Yeah, I think also that Alex vision back in the day was has to be updated to today's sites requirements and the trends that are today. But I think that we are very close to that, right? And what I will say about these power user tools is beware with that, because yeah, you give power to the user, but the user should be should be also aware of what power entails, and don't allow the users to ugly sites and follow a style.
Power to the people, power to the people.
So yeah, beware of that tools. Yeah, but yeah, I guess that every site and every user has its its user case, and then having all those myriad of tools available to make layouts, it's nice, and it will get better.
Okay, so just a really quick word from Philip on this question.
Hard yes. It's always been the heart of Plone to empower users, and Volto is getting much closer to that, and not only the tinkerer, but actually the real editor. I love sect classes, but let's face it, that's not for a normal user, and Volto definitely is for a normal user. So yeah, we're definitely getting there, and I'm really excited that Volto is finally delivering on these promises.
Okay, great. Let's move on to audience questions here, and I'm gonna start reading from what David has been feeding me in the Zoom chat, and interrupt David if there's something I should be doing other than that. So the first question is from Erico. Is there a plan for Volto to support editing the existing rich text fields of documents and news items?
They already do. Like if you migrate your site, you can add, it's not TinyMCE, but it's a rich text editor in Volto, and you can migrate the whole site. You just don't have the block editor. That's a different, because the storage layer is different. And it would be, as we already discussed, hard to write an API that supports both. But all this data is all there. All your, and reiterating what Alin said, schemas for the win. This is the best. Schemas are the best thing that we have in Plone. They give us immense power and flexibility. And if you have structured content, you're good in Volto. That's fine. Okay.
So I'm seeing general thumbs up on that from the other folks. Anything else brief to add? No. Okay. Let's move on to the next question then. And this one is from Raphael. I think it's a little less of a question than a comment. Let's see. I think Mosaic approach to a layout editing is much better than Volto. The fact that you can drag one tile next to another and adjust the width is better. Having 3 implementations is bad, and is what turns people off from using Plone. Migrations to newer versions become a project instead of a minor update. So any comments on that comment? We've kind of talked about this, I think, but if anybody wants to specifically address that.
Just quickly about migrations, yes, we need to work on making migrations even easier, and 5.1 to 5.2, if you include the migration to from archetypes to dexterity, and Python 2 to Python 3 was a really, really tough one, because it actually had 3 migrations in one. But that's not going to happen unless you migrate to Volto. Then you actually have to either rewrite your views as Volto as React, or you use the layout tools where you actually can use all your metadata in your templates, and then you won't have to write them yourself. So I'm excited about the chances that this will give us to not have to develop browser and not browser views for everything. But still, yeah.
Yeah, just to build on that, I mean, yeah, so 5.2 had a lot of backend migration or backend upgrades that needed to be made to move from 5.1 to that. And those were just unfortunately unavoidable if we wanted to survive as a project. But I'm fully bought into the idea of separating the front end and back end, having that API layer in between, because I think that definitely makes that migration story substantially easier. We're not having to reinvent the front end every release, because the front end is able to keep up with the technology. And I think it's going to make life better for everybody.
Does anybody have any comments on the question or the comment that Mosaic has superior features because of its sort of tiles, drag, and adjust width approach? Is that something
that is exactly what the EA stuff also provides if you want that. So I think that's solved by now, or in the business of being solved. And there will always be different opinions on whether that is useful or not, but it's more than good enough for my outlandish needs, and should be good enough for everybody.
And does somebody want to talk about the sort of the roadmap for integrating those changes fully within Volto? What is the plan for that? Is that going to become mainstream Volto, or is that going to be an add-on? Or?
That depends. I mean, the thing is that we have 3 different working implementations right now, as I said, right? And we compared them within the Volto team, right? So we're working closely together, all the companies that do Volto these days. We have we have similar use cases, and we found different solutions to the problem, right? And we compared the implementation, and it's clear that the EA implementation or from Odo Web is the implementation that has most features, right? And Kit Concept and Red Turtle, we put more of a focus on the usability, right? So most likely users like Paul will be happy with the EA implementation because they have tons of features. For us, we have a different idea for Volto, or a different core idea that occurred to us, to Victor, me, and Rob. Actually, when we implement our editor and we had problems with it, and then we had a look at Gutenberg, right? And Gutenberg was published as JavaScript, right? So we thought about, hey, why don't we just take Gutenberg, right? Because it's just there. Somebody else takes care of that. We have the best, the most feature-rich editor in the universe, right? And all these add-ons, right? We can just take it and put it on top of Plone, and then you have a WordPress with Gutenberg, but a secure one, right? Because it's Plone. And at some point, it occurred to us that we never want to do this, because I think the unique selling point of Plone was always that we have a system that's really user-friendly for editors, right? That's really easy to use, that keeps the training costs low in large organizations. If you have to train 1,000 users and you give them Gutenberg, you will have a really, really hard time, right? And if you have if you want to have a conscious corporate design, and you don't want to allow people to add a huge red banner with green color on your website, right? You have a really hard time with Gutenberg. And we always thought that this is not the USP of Plone. The USP of Plone is to provide a system that large organizations can use, that is secure, that allows you to have a consistent and professional corporate design, and that's really user-friendly, so your training costs are really low. So we don't, our vision for Volto or for Plone is not to have the most feature-rich like CMS editor in the world, because others are way better than we are, and they will always be. Right, so this is not where we
can always hide complexity from users. You can always disable features, and I think you need a pillow fight between these implementations. And we can't live with 3 implementations in the long term. We need to find a not streamlined, one solution that is extendable and can be also. I love the idea of stuff being disabled. We need to
blocks that's all you need. You can build your own implementation on top of that. That's what we did, right? We have, and all the blocks use the same system, right? So we have this powerful system where you can build whatever you want, right? And whatever you prefer. And this is already the case. We don't have 3 different implementations. We have like with 3 different like ways of like, or 3 different like flavors, you might say, but they all use the same basis, right? They're all the same, basically. It's just different blocks that we implemented.
So I think that's a really interesting conversation and possible slight disagreement, I'm not sure. And I'd like to come back to that in a second when we get to our summing up sort of what are we going to do for next steps. But before we go to the summing up next steps, I would like to just squeeze in one more question, which was posed by Fred, and we need to keep these answers really short so that we can get to our summing up. His question was, what's the future of using content types / behaviors in Plone to design an information architecture? With Volto, the trend seems to be mixing / adding 40 different blocks for every page. Any quick comments on that? David, do we have 90 seconds until the end of I thought that the session ended at 50 minutes after the hour, or does it actually end now? Sorry for my
no, we have a little bit of housekeeping related to a second group photo, so I'm kind of keeping my eye on that.
Okay. So anybody want to say just something really quick about Fred's question? I mean, really quick.
Yeah, so blocks are definitely the new layer where you actually work, where you get the flexibility and all the power of Volto. That's definitely the case, though you still have all the power on the underlying systems like behaviors and content types and everything that you want.
So it's essentially your choice on the site whether to go the content type, structured content type direction, or the,
exactly.
And it sounds like the EEA stuff will help people who make that.
We need to be able to have blocks that are fields from a schema or a behavior. This is, I think this is unavoidable to get this done, because Plone is strong with structured content, and displaying structured content in blocks makes total sense to me.
Okay,
but there
so
are still technical issues.
Let's just talk about next steps then. There's certainly some things still needing some thinking and planning and etc. What are the next steps? Obviously there are going to be sprints, but specific to some of the questions we've raised in this conversation about the 3 different implementations and the migrations and the this and the that. Sprints, open spaces, committees. How does marketing team? I'm on the marketing team, so I am particularly interested in how we communicate about it. Like very quickly, do you have plans? Maybe Timo can speak to open space plans, sprint plans. Is there a need for some sort of team approach to working out some of these things?
We plan to have an open space on the page composition stuff and on the on Volto, on the Volto roadmap, and we will also sprint on Volto for sure. In
this weekend. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Paul, do you have thoughts about how you'd like this to move forward? Paul's representing the user perspective here. That's why I'm calling on him as opposed to
yeah. For me, it would be good if there is at least a longer term vision on I would rather have power that a site administrator can lock down so that it then becomes not possible to do that anymore, than that I, as a client, as a customer, have to decide which one of the things I need, which one of the 3 implementations I need to do. I would much rather have, like, do you want small, medium, or large, or or do you want simple or expert view? That helps me a lot more. But that's just because, yeah, that's me as what do otherwise I
Sorry,
get
just letting you
choice
guys know
stress.
that we need to be wrapping up.
Okay, I don't want
All right.
choice stress.
All right. Well, it sounds like the conversation will continue in the open spaces, opportunities to contribute in the sprints. Yeah, that's the Plone community for you. So thanks, everyone. Over to you, David.